So today we're going to do the most difficult part of graphing. Those are the horizontal shifts, okay? Now actually doing the shifts is not going to be that big a deal. But trying to find the tick marks that go on your graph, that's hard. So, this is the sheet that we started. That was our kind of, formula sheet maybe? All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is find the horizontal, shift. The horizontal shift. Okay? Now, this is the guy that's doing our horizontal shift, this C up here. He is with an X, so he is an X. He is going to move this graph left or right, opposite of what we think. Remember, X's are always weird. They're always backwards. Okay? So, that means, saying that, a minus C is going to move it where?
Down.
Right? C units. And whenever we do a shift, whether it's horizontal or vertical, you have to tell direction and number. Okay? You have to tell direction and number. If you only tell the number, I mark it wrong. If you only tell the direction, I'll mark it wrong. Plus C means it's going to move to the left. C units. Okay? It's going to be the same thing over here for cosine. A minus C is going to go right C units, and a plus C is going to go left C units. Okay, so I need about 7 or 10 lines at the bottom of your paper. Y'all got that written down? Yeah. I need about 7 to 10 lines at the end of your paper. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here, and you can just count up like 7 or 10 lines, and then draw. I'm going to draw a line. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you directions. I'm going to give you like a formula to follow, but y'all listen to me. If you understand this formula, it's a whole lot easier to do it than if you don't. So I'm going to show you how to find the 9 key points. Okay? The 9 key points. Now, why is there 9 key points? How many points does it take to determine one curve?
5.
5. 4 sections, 5 points. Do you understand that? Okay, so I said we're doing 2 periods of a curve.
9.
Right. Does everybody understand why it's 9? You got 5 for this one and 5 for this one, but that one overlaps. Okay? So with 9 key points, I can divide off 8 sections. 4 for one period and 4 for another period. Okay? So this is my rule right here. You must show, I don't care how smart you are. Do you understand me? You must show work for 3 points. After you find 3 points, most of you will see a pattern and you'll bust out the rest of them. Okay? I'm gonna set the example. I'm gonna show work for more than 3 points, and I'm gonna always write down all my points. I'm not gonna just pop them up on my graph, and you're gonna see why when we do it. Okay? So before we do this, let's go do one, and we'll kind of talk about what's going on. Okay? So put this to the side. We're gonna come back to it. We are going to work a problem. So what are we studying? What are we learning today? Horizontal shifts. All right, so let me tell you what my goal is. Okay, so my goal is today we're going to do horizontal shifts. I'm going to work 2 problems with you, and then I'm going to give you 1 problem to work tonight at home. Okay, all by yourself. Tomorrow when we come to class, I'll have the problem worked up here on the board. And if you have a question, you can ask questions, but I'll show them all work, so probably you won't have any questions. But if you do, I'm fine with that. Tomorrow we will do vertical shifts, which is all that we lack. Okay? It won't take me maybe 10, 15 minutes. They're very easy. Okay? They're either going up or down. It's just like it says. There's one thing they can do that kind of tricks you, but I'll show you that so they don't trick you. And I'll show you a little, I don't know what you call it. I call them a little cheat to keep me on track when I graph something with a vertical shift. Because if you don't do that, your brain will automatically go back to the x-axis like we've been doing. And the x-axis is no longer my middle anymore. I've shifted that middle up or down. So what I usually do is I just make a dotted line, and then that becomes my new, it's like my new x-axis. It's not really, but it is my new middle, okay? And so then it draws my attention back to that. So we'll do that, and then I'll give you your worksheet. And I'll give you the rest of class to do your worksheet. So you'll have like 30 minutes to work on your worksheet, okay? You will in no way get even close to being finished, okay? I will give you all day Thursday in class to work on your worksheet. You still won't finish. I'm going to make it due on Monday because I do not want it. I don't want it on this 6 weeks.
And we still won't be finished?
Okay? Oh, you better be finished on Monday. But Friday, I'm going to start teaching you a new skill. We're going to start writing equations. Okay? So here's the deal. Because I'm not taking your worksheet up till Monday, but I am giving you a day and a half in class to work on it. You should be familiar enough with graphing them that you should be able to write equations for them. You understand? If you don't know anything about graphing, writing equations is going to be really hard for you. All right? So I'll teach that on Friday and maybe Monday. We'll do a little worksheet. So I'm thinking next week we're going to test maybe Wednesday, Thursday. I don't think it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday. I think that'll be too soon. But probably Wednesday, Thursday. Okay?
I like that idea.
All right, so that'll be your very first grade of the new 6 weeks, which is now a 5-week, 6 weeks. All right? So, and remember this, okay? You will have, I'll also hand out next week, I'll hand out your thing for your little project, but that's your
Rough draft?
that's your booster grade, whatever you want to call it. This 6 weeks you had 2 50-point tests, right? Memory tests. So those were your booster grades, okay? You also had a 100-point test that was exactly like a worksheet that I gave you. And I told you the test would be just like the worksheet, and it was. But then you had another like kind of equalizer test, all right? But we looked at it and found out that you really knew more than what your grade probably showed. So that's going to be your only booster grade. It's going to be that project. And here's the way that project's going to work. That project's going to work that if all of your unit circle is completely correct, you get a 75.
Pass.
The other 25 points will come from a comparison between all those papers that are turned in.
Miss.
I'm a
Taylor.
high.
A comparison. Now look, am I saying that if yours is neat and, very neat and thought out and stuff like that, I'm not saying that you're gonna get, 5 points because yours wasn't amazing. That's not what I'm saying, people. But I'm just saying if you turn in trash, your grade will be trash.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Okay, but what are you gonna
If
do?
you sketch something on a piece of white paper like this, 30 minutes before you come to class, it better all be right so you can make a 75. Because I will stand here and say you got 0 points for your presentation. Because that's what I'm grading that. Okay? It's just like if you were going in for a job and you were competing against 25 people, then your presentation better be good. Does everybody understand?
So will there only be one 100?
No, there will not only be one 100. And I'll tell you this too. This is the way I usually do it. I usually let teachers, I make them all come in and vote, and they pick their top 5. Okay? So what I do is there's always a separation point. Some years the separation point is that there's 8 to 10 in the top group. And then there's going to be a gap. And then there's going to be the others, okay? One year there ended up being 15 in that top group.
And that's all 100?
It's just, no, those are in the top group. And then I take everybody else out of the equation, and I only put the top group out, and then I bring a group of people in, not just teachers, and I say, you vote. who's your number 1, who's your number 2, and who's your number 3. The number 1 gets 15 bonus points.
Like,
15
Like
bonus
115?
points.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm coming
115.
for that.
Number 2 gets 10 bonus points. And number 3 gets like 6. I don't remember what it is.
Wow.
Does everybody understand? So that is what you're fighting for. Now, what I did last year, because they were exceptional, they were so good, is that everybody that made it in the top group, I gave them 2 bonus points.
Y'all don't even
Okay,
fight.
just for making it in the top. And so, huh?
Like the first one didn't get 15.
First one.
Never mind.
First place.
Yeah, first place got 15 bonus points.
Okay.
Dang.
The rest.
Okay?
Okay, so then like, how many hundreds, like, how would you get a 100? Like, you said that,
She was saying like.
I'm just saying it has to be. I'm just saying it has to be. It has to be. We'll talk more about it. But I'll show you some things that I threw that I'm not gonna that I won't. But I'll show you some pictures.
But it's-
When we talk about it, I'll show you some things that when I look at it, you're gonna in no way say, oh yes, I think this is as good as all of these right here. Am I saying it has to be on that board up there? Those are my top 3 on that board. Those are the only ones on the board. Top 3 from different years. All the years we've been doing it.
You're gonna have to do a lot of editing on this video.
I'm not editing anything. They can listen to it or not. They can fast forward or whatever. It's not my problem.
This is the first time I've ever been reminded about Eli and McWhorter.
Yes, the name, I'll tell you not to put your name on it.
But I still didn't get everything right.
Okay, if you put your name on the front, I'll have to put a big piece of paper on it. Is that gonna take away from your presentation? Yes, it is. And the people that look at it, what are they gonna say?
Yo, why?
They didn't follow directions. So that's not my number 1.
so you don't put your name on the front.
Nope,
No.
I'll tell you all that.
So it's not like the type of thing where like if Lizzie's is better than mine, she gets 100 and I don't. Like
No,
it's just
no,
like
it's not like that. It's quality.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. It's all about quality. It's not about, because I've heard that Judith can draw,
Who? I can draw.
okay?
I don't know who that is.
So I've heard she's an extremely good artist. So does that mean that if you're not a good artist that you can't make as good a grade? If
you
no,
just won't be
Tear it
number
down,
1.
baby.
you probably won't be number 1, okay?
I see it.
I will buy.
Yeah, hey, guys, look, we'll talk about this when I sign it, okay? We'll
Yes,
talk about this when I
ma'am.
sign it. So horizontal shift, example 4.
There we go.
I want you to be excited about this, okay?
So realistically, we can turn in the unicircle paper we did together?
And make it 7.
I'm not saying I'm gonna do that, but like, really, we could.
Mine has a bunch of colors on it.
I might call that like, no, you didn't do anything for your unicircle project, you turned in an old paper, I'm gonna give you,
A zero.
a
50.
zero.
Oh, well.
So here we go, this problem right here, guys, listen to me. Remember what the rules said. The rules said that whatever is in front of X must be factored out. That is very, very important. The book does not teach it this way. Okay? So whatever is in front of X must be factored out. What's in front of X? If I factor it out, will it change it?
No.
Okay, so I'm not doing anything. I'm just leaving it like it is. Okay? So these are all the things that we're going to find. Amplitude, period. I'm adding to this. Okay? Horizontal shift. Okay, we're going to do a vertical shift, but we're going to do it tomorrow. Obviously, I'm not going to put one on the one today. Okay? We're also going to find a max and a min. And we're going to go ahead and do the domain and the range. Okay? Now, listen to this closely because this is very important. The best way to do this is just to draw the x-axis and put 9 tick marks on it. Do not draw the y-axis until you know where it's supposed to go. You'll end up erasing it. Okay? So, just start making and make you 9 tick marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay?
Can I put 10? Mine's a little off-centered.
You can do as many as you want to. I'm only going to use 9, but if you want to put 30, put 30. Alright, so here we go. The first thing I would do is look and see, do I need to factor the coefficient of x out? This is a 1, so we're good. Everything's fine. Are you okay?
How would you factor it? Like,
I'm going to show you. When we do factor it, remember factoring is the same as what? What operation?
Division.
Division. Factoring is dividing. You are factoring something out, you are dividing it out. We'll do that on one of them, okay? So, amplitude. Tell me what the amplitude of this guy is.
1/2.
Very good. Okay? Period. What's the formula for period?
2 pi over b.
2 pi over b. If you don't know that, I suggest you write it every time until you learn it. Okay? What is b in this case? 1. Remember, look, here's your formula card. There's my b. Whatever the coefficient of x is my b. Okay? So it's going to be 2 pi over 1, which is 2 pi. Okay? Now, I like the way I do it because now I can look at it, and that guy right there is my horizontal shift. He is screaming at me. What is my horizontal shift? Direction and number.
Right.
Perfect.
Positive. Pi over 3.
Pi over 3. Do not use positive and negatives to tell me direction. You can use right, left, up, and down. That's all. Okay? The rest of these we'll do after we finish our graph. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to mark my first point. My first point is my horizontal shift. If I move right pi over 3, then this first tick mark is pi over 3. Are you with me? Yes?
So far.
Are y'all like? Okay, so now I've got to figure out what all of these little tick marks are. Okay? Now, do you agree that this is one period?
Yes.
Are you with me? 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections, 4 sections, 5 points. That's kind of what we did yesterday. Okay? So I need to know what distance this is. Do you agree? So that I can add it to this tick mark, and that'll give me the next one. Are you with me? Okay, so this whole entire distance is 2 pi. Divided by what? 4. This is 1/4 of that period. 1/4 of that full cycle. Okay? So every time when I want to find a key point, look, I'm going to have to divide the period by 4, and then I'll take that and add it to this one. It'll give me this one. I'll add it to this one. It'll give me this one. I'll add it to this one. It'll give me this one. You understand?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to write something up here. Last time I wrote it with a black pen, but I didn't really like the way it looked. It was kind of confusing to me. So I'm going to write it with this yellow marker and hope that you can see it. The kids, one year, they didn't like that I just called it that distance, and I kept referring to it, and they were like, Miss Davis, you got to name it. And so I was like, oh, okay, y'all name it. So they named it Q. I assume because it's 1/4 of the distance, right? So this is Q. Each one of these distances is the same. They're all Q. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so now go back over here at the bottom of this page, and I'm going to show you how to find those 9 points. Okay? So the first thing you have to do is find Q. Tell me how to find Q.
Divide your period
There you go.
by 4.
Exactly. You're going to divide the period by 4, and that will be Q. Okay? And then, how do I find, I know what the first key point
Add it to
is.
the previous.
What is the first key point?
Pi over 3.
Why? Because that's my horizontal shift. Okay, so you're going to take your horizontal shift, which is what, guys? Your first key point. Okay? Your horizontal shift is your first key point, and you're going to add Q to it. And that will give you your second key point. How are you going to find the third key point?
Add the second.
The second key point plus Q will be my third key point. My third key point plus Q will be my fourth key point. My fourth key point plus Q will be my fifth key point. And you could keep going forever and ever. You know, they said find 140 key points. I just keep doing that. Okay? Now what did I say? I said you only had to show me work for 3 of them. Okay? There's your work for 3 of them right there. Because once you find these 3, you're going to see a pattern to the numbers, and you're going to be able to just pop the rest of them off. Okay? So if I just told you this off the beginning, you'd be like, what? What in the world? Okay, is everybody okay? Can I move it? All right. So let's go over here and let's find our 5 key points. Okay? Let's find, however, we're 9 key points. Okay? So the first one, what do we have to do first?
Divide 2 pi.
Okay, so I'm going to write down the formula, okay, just so I understand what's going on. By 4. What's the period? 2 pi. 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2. Okay? So this is my Q. That is my distance in between each one of these points. Do you get it? So if I want to find the next one, I add how far I want to go. That's my distance to this. Okay? So I take my first key point, which is my horizontal shift. Now listen to this. If the horizontal shift had been left pi over 3, what would be my first key point?
Negative pi.
Negative pi over 3. Very good, Amy. Very good. All right.
Sean.
So, what's that, Sean? Oh, sorry. Okay. So I'm going to take my first key point, pi over 3. And I'm going to add pi over 2 to it. Well, in order to add these fractions, what do you have to have?
Common denominator.
What is a common denominator between 3 and 2? 6. So I'm going to put them both over a 6. Okay? Normally I would write them over 1 6, but because I want you to see something, I decided to separate them. Okay? So what do you do to this guy to turn him into a 6?
Multiply by 2.
You multiply it by 2, so you multiply the top by 2. And pi times 2 is 2 pi. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Over here, what am I multiplying by?
3.
Times 3 times 3. And so that will be 3 pi. What is 2 pi plus 3 pi? 5 pi over 6. Now what am I going to do at that point? 5 pi over 6 plus pi over 2. But look, look. Like, do every time we get in the car we have to reinvent the wheel? Like, is this pi over 2 with a common denominator? Do you see what I'm saying? I've already got a common denominator. This is my Q that's going to be so helpful for me. So that's the one I'm going to use. It is pi over 2, but he's already got, I don't want to find a common denominator every stinking time. Okay? What is 5 pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6?
8 pi over 6.
Don't reduce it yet, because if you reduce it, what are you going to have to go back and do?
Change the
Get
denominator.
a common denominator. Do you see what I'm saying? So just go and do your work, and then, plus this will show you what the pattern is.
I thought you were about to say, no, you have to reduce.
Well, we are when we put it up here on our
Yeah.
tick marks. We have to. So 8 pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6. What do you get?
11 pi over 6.
11 pi over 6. Most of you see the pattern now. If you don't see the pattern, let's go one more time. 11 pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6. What do you get? 14 pi over 6. So what's the pattern? What am I doing every time? I'm adding 3. 5 to 8 to 11 to 14. What's the next one? 17 pi over 6. What's the next one? 20 pi over 6. What's the next one? 23 pi over 6. And let's see, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need one more. 26 pi over 6. Okay? Now, why do I write them all down? Because visually, I have to look at them to reduce these fractions. Doing it in my head will make me make a careless mistake. Okay? So what's my next tick mark? 5 pi over 6. My next one is 8 pi over 6, which reduces to
4 pi over 3.
my next one is 11 pi over 6. It does not reduce. Are y'all with me? The next one is 14 pi over 6, which reduces to
7 pi over 3.
perfect. The next one is 17 pi over 6. He doesn't reduce.
Oh,
The
wait.
next one is 20 pi over 6, which reduces to
10 pi over 3.
okay. The next one is 23 pi over 6. He's good. The next one is 26 pi over 6, which is 13 pi over 3.
So every single time it changes, it switches?
Every other time it did this time. Okay? Sometimes we're going to do one where it changes every time, but every other time it changes differently. It's kind of weird. Okay? So just some strange stuff happens. All right, so here's my question. After I filled in my, y'all listen to me, this is the most difficult part of this whole entire problem. So if you got this, you're good to go. You will not have a problem. More kids will miss this right here. This is half of your graph. Half of the points on your graph come from, can you make these tick marks correctly? Okay? So now I want to draw my y-axis. So does everybody agree that it goes over here somewhere?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I want to know. Mhm.
Okay, so you originally said that our first key point was 2 pi over 6, but then,
Well, but we have to reduce it, so it's pi over 3.
no, like, then we had to add 3 pi over 6, and that was the one that we kept on adding.
No, we always take the one on the end. This, okay, this 2 pi over 6, this came from this guy right here.
You have to add first.
Okay, you have to start at your horizontal shift. Okay, look, that's what your directions say. See, they say take your horizontal shift. If it's right, it's positive. If it's left, it's negative. Okay, because we're starting at 0. That's your first key point. Then you're going to add Q to it, and that'll give you your second one. That's what we did. We had to get a common denominator, but still, 2 pi over 6 is pi over 3. And then we added our pi over 2, which we turned into 3 pi over 6. Then we got this one. And then we took it, and we added, this is pi over 2. That's my Q. We added Q to it. Every time this is Q. Okay, and then once I saw that pattern, how many do I have to do? I'm making you physically do 3 of them. Once you get 3, most of the kids will go, I see the pattern. Because it's always going to be a pattern. You're adding the same thing to something every time. It's going to create a pattern. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to put my y-axis here. Here's my question, and y'all, I will count off a point. A point. Okay? If you just like slap it on there. Okay? So first of all, I want to know, is my y-axis as far away from pi over 3 as this tick mark?
Yeah. Oh wait, no, it's gotta be a 0.
Okay, so how much space is right here? 1/2? Do you agree? This is 1/2, guys. See? 1/2. Pi over 2 is 1/2. You're 1/3 away from the y-axis. So should there be more space or less space or the same space?
More.
More. 1/3 is bigger than, no.
Smaller.
1/3 is smaller than. There should be less space. Okay, sorry. Don't know what happened to me. All right.
Wait, no, there should be more, because
No.
1/3 is less.
No, there should be less.
Why would you say that? Stop saying that.
There
Stop.
That makes me want to go
But
pause the
1/3 is
video.
less, so there should be more.
No.
Hey, that could mean the clickbait. Teachers trying to.
Okay, so
Because it has to be.
why, stop, Colton. Why are you trying to mess me up? Oh, God.
There has to be more.
Okay, so listen to me. So do you understand that this is 0.5? The space between here is 0.5, right? What's the space between here? 0.333. Which one should be bigger? 0.5.
So you
Okay.
say it needs to be more.
Just never know. Just never mind. Okay, so my amplitude is a half, so I'm gonna go up, I like to go up 1 and down -1 and then mark those middle points. That's just the way I am. If you went up to a half and down to a half, I'm perfectly fine. Down to -1/2, perfectly fine with that. Okay? Now here's where the mistake's gonna come. So follow me here. I'm fixing to draw the sine curve. Where does the sine curve start? The middle. I love the word that you used because first period said at 0, and I said, we don't use that. We don't say that. Okay, because if I put a horizontal shift or vertical shift on there, do you see what's gonna happen? They're gonna say 0, and I'm like, no. Okay, so it starts in the middle. So here's my middle, and it went right pi/3. So this is my first point.
Why?
Because it shifted, you have a horizontal shift of right pi/3. That's my first point. What's gonna be the mistake? Kids are gonna put it right there. They're gonna forget about that horizontal shift. And then what happens to it? It goes up
Then back.
to 1/2, back to the middle, down to the bottom, and back to the middle. Up to the top, back to the middle. Do you understand why I'm using the words that I use? The middles and the tops and the bottoms? Because we're changing all of that stuff, all right? And then down to the bottom, and then back to the middle. And that is 2 complete periods of your sine curve.
Speak up on the third.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's not
Okay?
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Okay, so let's fill in the rest of this chart. What's my max?
13 pi/3.
What?
1 hour.
Thank you. Your max is how high does
my
it
B,
go?
my B, my B.
1/2.
Negative
What's your
infinity,
min?
infinity.
What's your min?
Negative 1.
-1/2. What's my domain?
That's negative infinity, positive infinity.
Negative infinity to
Yeah.
positive infinity. Y'all, these two right here, these are like little presents from me. Merry Christmas. Okay? You shouldn't miss these.
It's how long.
Domain is always negative infinity to positive infinity. What's my range?
Negative
The other one.
N to the max. -1/2 to positive 1/2. It will, oh, never mind. Yes?
Will your min and max always be your positive and negative version of your acid, or whatever that is?
Okay, your amplitude? No, because if I move this, if I shift this whole curve up or I shift it down, that's gonna change.
But that's
See
a
what I'm
vertical
saying?
shift.
But that wasn't
Wait,
a
so
range.
how did you guys do that?
I looked and said what was the highest that it goes and what was the lowest that it goes.
Okay.
That's why I like to do these after my graph. Some of the kids can do these before their graph, but I think it's better to do it after your graph.
Miss Davis, they banned my Heelys.
Did they really?
Yeah, they said that they were marking up the floor, like by the bus stop, and I was like, I don't even ride the bus, like it wasn't me.
Someone wore their
Miss
boots.
Newton found out.
I think they probably just didn't want you to do it, so it is what it is. All right, so here we go. Are you ready? Here's your problem. Y is equal to 3 cosine, open parentheses, 2x plus pi/3. We're gonna find the amplitude. Remember to leave you just a little bit of space over here on the left, because you have to do a little work, okay? Period, horizontal shift, vertical shift, of which we know there's none, okay? Because we haven't done that yet. Max, min, and then tomorrow we'll add 2 other things in here. We'll add an x and a y intercept, and we'll talk about those tomorrow. Domain and range.
Is this our problem to do at home?
Nope, this is your problem we're doing right now. What time's the bell ring?
We have time.
50? Oh, we're good.
Is that what we're supposed to work on for 30
Didn't you say we're gonna have like a 50-point test, next 6 weeks on like one big
Yes,
problem?
one but it'll be a real life problem, so it'll be after this big test, then we'll start talking about how you can apply this information to real life stuff, okay? And then, yes, we'll practice some real life problems, and then I'll give you a test.
So we'll have that.
And
in
each
one problem.
class will have a different real life problem. So go ahead, first period, and share your info. They will mess you up.
Wait, quick question.
Yes.
So like, is your like heartbeat, is that a sign?
What?
Is that a sign?
Oh, like a sine curve.
Oh.
Is that just something?
No, because can your heartbeat change?
Yes.
Okay, so the sine curve doesn't change.
Oh,
Okay, it's not changing. It's very steady. It's all this thing. When it deals with one situation, you see what I'm saying? Like if it was yours. You can do tuning forks. Tuning forks make, you can write if you, how high they go, their amplitude and all that stuff. That has to do with what key they are. It's pretty cool. We did tuning forks in one of my workshops I did. But we're gonna do some other things. All right, so what should be the first thing you should do to this guy?
Factor out.
Yeah, you better factor that 2 out, guys. So I want to see who can do that without my help.
Can I use your help real quick? I know I'm not gonna do it.
Anything that's in front of the X must be factored out. Remember what I said factoring was, people?
Dividing.
It's dividing.
I don't know how to do it.
Easy as pie.
Oh, that's multiplying fractions, dividing fractions. Well, it is the same thing, I guess. Yeah, you're a fractionary. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
So it is less, or it is more, right?
Why do you feel the meaning? She's a math teacher.
Because you are there.
So it's like, oh, this is like third place. Oh, well, these are half away. So you would need more on this one to make it a half.
The half is in front of the X.
Yeah.
So those are more.
So you would want to make
It's
these
really
more.
not.
I'm just saying.
Before we continue on going, can you tell us if we got the
Yes, I am. Okay, so let's do this. Let's factor this 2 out. Now y'all listen to me. Watch up here for a second because I'm going to prove to you that this is factoring. I'm going to do it 2 ways. First of all, what do I multiply 2 by to get 2x? X. Okay? So that one's pretty easy, right? But then here's where the problem comes in. When I say, what do you multiply 2 by to get pi over 3? Your brain goes, what? Okay? So watch this. If I take this 2x and I divide by this 2, what do you get? So now I want to take this pi over 3 and I want to divide by this 2.
Dividing fractions.
How do you divide by fractions? Flip division by
Flip it and
fractions
then
is
multiply.
easy as pie. Flip the second
And multiply.
and multiply.
I did that.
Pi over 6. Perfect.
Ms. Davis, I did that.
Perfect. I'm proud of you. All right. Pi over 6. Is everybody okay?
That's the most
Okay.
important part.
Now, yeah, and let me explain to you why, Colton. It is the most important part. Because when you look at this guy, what does your brain shout to you that's the horizontal shift? Left, pi over 3. Is that right?
No.
In order to find that horizontal shift, if you did it like the book, you have to divide by whatever this coefficient is. Well, if you're going to do it, why don't you just factor it out? And then it's staring you in the face. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, so now let's fill in your stuff. Tell me what the amplitude is. 3. Did you find the period? 2 pi over b. What is b?
2.
What's 2 pi over 2?
Pi.
So my period is pi. What's my horizontal shift?
Pi over, oh, right.
Nah.
Left.
Left, pi over 6.
5 or 6.
If you write pi over 6 right here, what am I going to do? I'm going to mark it wrong, people. You're going to lose those points. There is no vertical shift. We'll do this after we graph. Okay? So make your 9 tick marks. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What is my first tick mark?
Pi over 6.
Left.
Yes, it is negative. Okay, so
Negative
instead
pi
we went left, people. If you go left, it's negative pi over 6. Okay?
Wait, but you're not going left, you're actually going right. Because we started right there. So what we draw differently? Wait, what?
Why are we not going left? It says left, pi over 6.
I know, but now that we have it, now we're going right.
I think you should go sit back in your seat in the front. My brain is so scrambled. I feel bad for you.
People are gonna look up.
I already said.
What People are gonna look at this video and they're
I
just
know
gonna
we're
be
going
serious.
left, which is why it's negative, but on the paper, we're going to be going right.
That's exactly right. So that's why we're gonna be
Okay,
adding Q.
That's what I was trying to say.
That's not what you said.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So what should you do now? What should you do now? Some of y'all should pray.
That's not
What should we do now?
period over.
Take my period and divide it by 4. Can you do that? Oh, you know, that's easy.
Put some salt on my scrapple, bro.
Uh-huh.
Tell me what Q is. Pi over 4. Okay? So I want you to find, at least find 3 tick marks. Go. We don't have a lot of time, so. I want to finish this problem before we leave. Invested, like, it feels like an hour and a half.
We spent 11 minutes talking about the project.
I know.
Everybody's gonna look on this
I saw
YouTube
it,
video,
it
it's
was
gonna
on
be
the
sad, or
recording.
it's just gonna be
When they
close.
do, just fast forward it, pass through all that mess.
Don't listen to Colton.
Remember that your first point is negative pi over 6.
Yes.
Don't forget the sign on it. It's very, very important. What's your common denominator?
24.
12. 12's better. 24 will work, but 12's better. 12's a lot less work. Remember what I said, just go and find the points. People, don't worry about reducing the fraction until you put it up there, because that kills your pattern if you reduce the fraction.
Wait a second.
By the time you get here, you ought to be able to see that pattern. Did you see it?
I found it.
Okay? You went from 1 over 12 to 4 over 12 to 7 over 12 to 10 over 12. What's the next one? 13 pi over 12. What's the next one? 16 pi over 12. 19 pi over 12. And 22 pi over 12.
How did she get 3 pi over 12?
I had to find a common denominator between 6 and 4, and I chose 12, the least common multiple. So I multiplied this guy by 3 and that guy by 3.
Oh, I did all that wrong.
Okay, so I'm gonna put these up here. The second one is pi over 12. 4 pi over 12 becomes what? Pi over 3. 7 pi over 12 doesn't reduce. 10 pi over 12 becomes 5 pi over 6. 13 over 12 doesn't reduce. 16 pi over 12 reduces by 4s, so what's that, 4 pi over 3? 19 pi over 12 doesn't reduce. 22 over 12 reduces by 2s, so that's 11 pi over 6.
What's the second last one? 19 pi.
19 pi over 12.
Miss Davis, you need to let them know, this is what they get for like taking my heels away. My brain is just not up to
It's
par.
not, it's not. Okay, so where does your y-axis go?
Right side of
Do you agree that it goes in between negative pi over 6 and positive pi over 12? Who does he go closer to?
the 6.
Pi over 12. 'cause
Pi over
it's
12, because it's 1/12. This is 2/12 to the left.
So that
This
would
is
be
1/12 to the right. So he goes right here. My amplitude is 3. 1, 2, 3. -1, -2, -3. Okay, be careful and don't get sucked into the most common mistake. And that's to start your curve at that 0. Your curve starts at your first point, your first tick mark. I'm doing the cosine curve. Where does the cosine curve start?
Top.
At the top. So I'm starting up here at this 3. And then I go to the middle. What's my next point? Pi over 12. People don't mark the 0. Okay? And then down to the bottom. Back to the middle. Up to the top. Back to the middle. Down to the bottom. Back to the middle. And up to the top. And here is,
You gotta sneak up on them.
Did it wrong.
my cosine curve. Okay? What is your max?
3.
What is your min?
-3.
What is your domain?
What?
What is your range?
-3, 2.
Make sure that when you write the range, people, it's listen. It's interval notation. Which number goes first?
Negative.
Why? Smallest, always on the left. Because the distance between 0 and 1/12 is 1/12. The distance between 0 and negative 1/6 is 2/12, which is 1/6. Okay?
What's our problem?
Alright, here's your problem. There's your problem. Write it down, because you only got a minute. I want you to do this problem.
Alright, if we take a picture of it after class?
Write it down.
You can take a picture of it now.
Just send it to me.
Try and write it down.
Type it into notes.
Not that capable.
Travis, stop our video for us, please. It's gonna take